Mitaki. Welcome back to Stories of Lakota Elders. I'm Tashina Banks Rama.
And I'm Jennifer Irving. Whoopila for joining us as we continue this beautiful journey with Cecelia. In this episode, we step into a different part of Cecilia's story, one that's deeply creative and deeply connected to the women who shaped her life.
Cecelia not only talks about her creative process, but also touches on the history of textiles in our community, including how trade routes brought new materials and colors that influenced the clothing our ancestors wore and the ways they expressed identity. It's fascinating.
Yep, Cecilia takes us into her world as an artist. You'll hear how crafting dolls became a form of healing for her, a way to honor the women who inspired her, to represent their strength and beauty, and to reconnect with parts of herself that needed tending.
And later, she shares a beautiful story about her time working on an exhibit at the Smithsonian's National Museum of the American Indian, reflecting on how she called on her ancestors to guide her work in that powerful space.
So settle in. This episode, a blend of journey, history, and healing, a reminder of how creativity can carry us, restore us, and connect us back to those who walked before.
Good morning. How Misha Hana washte. We choni wa te wahila Hana wekta het hokea. I woke up this morning and that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Just being alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We should never take that for granted, right?
My eyes opened. Yeah. That's important. I'm really glad that I wish people would just be appreciative of being alive, huh?
Mm-hmm. I wanted to talk to you about your art journey, your journey as an artist.
Mm-hmm.
I know I've heard you say in the past how sometimes it was difficult for you to acknowledge yourself in that way. And I think so many of us, folks in our community, are artists, but we don't think of ourselves as that, right? We're just like, I just sew things, or I bead things, or I paint things, and I think people don't always attach that label because they're not making money off of it, or they didn't pursue that as a career, so they're just like, I make stuff, but are really gifted in so many ways. And I can remember back to like my high school days, and I think that was around the time you were making dolls, you know. So yeah, let's talk about that a little bit today.
I think when sometimes in the Western definition of art or an artist, we see things like pictures, world famous artists, usually white guys with beards, no, you and art is, so those of us, Western definition of what art is, what an artist is. And then, so it was only later in my own journey to understand it's about being creative, making something, a symbol of something, And so then we have to then individually look at ourselves and look at what we do and then accept that what you're doing is a creation, it's about an image, it's about something that someone can connect with, So
Yeah.
so we have to take our own inward journey on defining why we do what we do. So I think that's it. And then, back up a little bit. Yeah, you're absolutely right, It's just so many creative people in just Pine Ridge alone.
Yeah.
I can't, I people post stuff on Facebook. I go, wow, who would have thought to do it that way, you know? Or even the quill work. Quill work has taken on its own. Well, how can I describe it? It's not just wrapping it and stuff. People have created such intricate designs using the quills. It just absolutely amazes me sometimes.
Yeah.
It's just like, wow, look at this.
Yeah.
And so it is I think all people are capable of making things. So I never considered myself an artist until about 20 years ago. They gave me this label. Anyway. So then I applied for this thing, and next thing I know, you're artist. Anyway, creativity. So my creativity began way I was working night shift, and I always liked dolls. And I wanted to make a doll that was so, symbolic of Lakota women. So today I look at the different dolls that are made, but I wanted to make my dolls and dress them the old way. Nothing real flamboyant, not too much stuff on. And if you take a look at the old pictures, I have a lot of old pictures of the dentilium shell dresses, tops, or shell or the beaded dresses. I take a look at the old pictures and they didn't have a whole bunch of stuff on.
Mhm.
And even like today at the powwow, geez, they have so much stuff on you can't see the dress.
Yeah.
Did you ever notice that they
Yeah.
have throwing of feathers on their head, or they got throwing of layers of this and layers of that? So what happened to the dress? But anyway, so for me, I started making them, and it's healing. I didn't realize how healing it was to make women dolls.
Mm.
Yeah, it's so the creativity part was also, I didn't realize it until I started doing it, how healing it was to make a body of a doll, a woman. It's my doll body, how I made them. But then it took me a couple of years to really fine tune the body, because that's the foundation of the clothes you're going to put on her. So I tried different methods, different bodies, and then finally I came to a pattern that I really enjoyed. I liked it. It's the two legs, two arms, and a torso are one piece, one fabric, and then the head is separate. And then the head, I use leather sometimes, for their face. Anyway, so I just took me a couple of years to fine tune the foundation, which is, again, symbolically.
Mhm.
You have to have a good foundation for everything, right?
Mhm.
Life, you have to have a good foundation to do the work you do. You have to have some knowledge, some skills that you learn.
Yeah.
So symbolically, the women's body for me was my own foundation,
Mhm.
and how I had to, really look at the parts of myself that were needing a little attention. And so, we're not perfect. And so making the doll's body was healing for me, because I realized there were some pieces of me that were not strong,
Mm.
that needed to be taken care of. So making them was also healing for myself. So the physical part, just make sure I was healthy. The physical part was to make sure I did not abuse my body. The physical part was really being mindful to not be diabetic, because as you're working on your body, you're looking at your family and see the high rates of certain diseases or illnesses that are running your family. And one of the biggest one is diabetes,
Mm.
and how I needed to really get a handle on what I was eating so I wasn't going to be diabetic. So anyway, so the foundation of my dolls was my body. And after a couple of years, I fine-tuned it to this body that I'm really happy with. It's four parts, and I use muslin. I trace it out. I sew it everything by hand. So
Mm.
here again, sewing by hand is really healing. Some people said, "Oh," I said, "What do you mean it's healing? It seems boring." I said, "Until you do it,
Yeah.
until you
Yeah. Got to
make the
get your
thread,
thread and
and then you sit there and you
yeah.
sew it, you put it all together by hand. And then it might seem tedious to some people, but for those of us who do it, it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. So every little stitch that you're putting into well, for me, the body of the doll, every little stitch was a reminder of something. So as you're stitching, you can then focus on yourself and focus on what else you need to do. Okay, I put a stitch here. I better take care of this. My gut hanging out. No, I better tighten it up. And so the creativity also is a connection with yourself.
Mhm.
So once I fine tune the body, then after I stitch all the legs together and the arms and the torso, then I turn it inside out. Then I stop them. I
Mm.
just so every little thing I did to make the foundation of that doll was healing.
Mm. I'm looking at one right now.
Are you looking at one right now?
Yeah. I think if this is
Oh yeah, that was one of the first ones I
Was
made,
it?
and that's at the Smithsonian, I
Yeah,
think. Yeah,
yeah. That's where it came from. I
yeah,
mean, the photo anyway.
yeah, the Smithsonian. Yeah, and then yeah, thank you. So I didn't realize that was what year was that? I didn't realize. And then the people say, "Wow, this is so cool." I go, "It is." But the reason I wanted to make my dolls was to dress them.
Mm,
Because to me, the dress was so symbolic of the transitions that we came through.
yeah.
And then as I studied the transitions, the wool came later, but then the first dresses that my ancestors wore were deerskin leather.
Hmm.
They made them. And then again, here again, they had to process the leather. They had to, first they had to butcher the deer and then take that leather, and it's a real process to soften it up and make it into a dress. So the early dresses were, of course, buckskin and some elk, but you had to soften that up. And the transition started, and this is my generation. So when the first traders came to Pine Ridge, they brought plaid fabrics. A lot of my dresses, their underdresses, plaid, symbolic of the first cotton that came to Pine Ridge.
Mm.
So the first cotton that came to Pine Ridge was plaid, and it came from Scotland.
Oh wow.
See, I didn't know that till I was doing the research because plaid was always in my family. Somebody
Mm.
had a plaid dress. The grandmas had those long cotton dresses, you remember?
Hmm.
And all my unchies, they made all their own dresses. No one ever bought a dress at the store. So they were made out of plaid material and or small flowers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
And
remember
then
the
the other
small
part was
flowers.
the flowered fabric came from flour sacks.
Oh yeah.
So during the Depression, a lot of the company they heard that a lot of people used the flour sacks to make shirts or
Hmm.
dresses. So they went from simple little flour sacks, and they heard because of the Depression, it was very people wanted fabric. Anyway, so they created more designs, so the flour sacks became even nicer. So it took two flour sacks to make a man's shirt.
Mm.
It took 3 or 4 flour sacks to make a dress.
Hmm.
And so they were also collecting, but not only the Indian women, the Washichu women during the Depression were also using the flour sacks to make clothing,
Yeah.
dresses for the kids and stuff. Anyway, the first fabric that came to Pine Ridge before the Depression was plaid. So
Mm.
if you ever go to Nebraska, Shattered, the Museum of the Great Plains, is that
Hmm.
what it's called?
Or the fur trade.
The Museum of the Fur Trade.
Yeah.
If you ever go in there, you will see samples of the first plaid fabrics that came to Pine Ridge.
Wow.
Yeah. And so because I know that, so a lot of my dresses, if you pull the sleeve up, you'll see her underdress is plaid,
Hmm.
only because of that time period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool.
So later on, I didn't realize. So later on, I realized that it was to tell the story of everything she had on, why and how come.
Hmm.
You see, and that's part of art.
Yeah.
That's part of art. And so all of my underdresses are usually plaid, especially on the wool dresses, plaid, and then on some of the other fabric I use, it's just a cotton with flowers on it.
Hmm.
Why do we like cotton with flowers on it?
It's cool.
Yeah, and that was
I mean,
again,
compared to some of the trade cloth
it
and
is.
some of the leather, like to have a nice
Mm-hmm.
thin dress that's pretty too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cotton. So if
Yeah.
I go to the fabric store, what do? I go to look for the cotton material with flowers on
The
it.
calico print kind of. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it just you get drawn to that, huh?
Mhm.
And then the reason I finally realized, so I was seeing things as a little girl through my mother's eyes and my grandma's eyes.
Mhm.
I also want people to know that there was a time here on the Pine Ridge Reservation where people were really financially poor. We didn't have fabric stores. We didn't, even today we're spoiled. Many of us go to fabric stores. We're spoiled. You can go online to a number of locations where you can buy fabric online.
Yeah.
And so back in the when we were growing up, everybody was financially poor. But I always remember going to the Catholic Church in Kyle, and they always had rummage. What did they call it? Rummage. Old clothes, shoes, people donate.
Yeah.
And so, one day a month, I think at the Catholic Church in Kyle, there's a community hall, and in that community hall, there'd be clothes and shoes and stuff for the people to come and help themselves. But this is what I remember very clearly. My mom, she always told us, "Iska cotton cho'olepe." She wanted us to. She showed us looking at the dresses and even the men's shirts, but mostly the women's dresses. She wanted us to find cotton,
Yeah.
just find cotton. Didn't matter if it was plaid or whatever, find cotton. And then we would take all those cotton dresses home, and we would wash them. Then we didn't have washing machines, so we used to use the old tub and
Yeah.
hang them up. After they dried, she would have us take them all apart.
Mm.
So we would have the skirt of the dress. She would have us take all the dresses apart. We had little containers for buttons.
Yeah.
Then we had little containers for snaps. We saved everything. And then pretty soon we had that dress completely taken apart. Even the sleeves of a dress. While you're making a quilt pattern, the sleeves, you can get some pieces out of that.
Yeah.
So she had us do all that, wash it and then hang it out and then folded it. And that's what she used to make quilts.
Nice.
You see, just
Yeah.
touching the cotton. Cotton jello, call that be.
Hmm.
And so so we helped our mom that way. And so all summer long we would go to the rummage sale and find cotton and then clean it, wash it, and then she would use those to make quilts. But my favorite one was the denim. She always made sure we got denim, you know. And then she took them apart. We took them apart, and they made quilts out of denim. And then those were the winter quilts.
Hmm.
And so they layered it. And then so whatever extra material that we had, they would layer it. And I always remember when they would use old dresses and old shirts and take the buttons off, and then those were the line, the padding, or what do you call it? So instead of putting cotton in there, you put old fabric in there, and then use denim, and then we use big needles. We just every 12 inches we anchored it, and those things were heavy. So in the middle
Yeah.
of winter, they'll cover you up. You can't move. So the reason I share that is even today, I'll go to a thrift store. I still go to thrift stores and I still look at for cotton.
Yeah.
I may not buy it, but it's just the act of it.
Yeah.
And then I'll go down the street to the fabric store and I can buy it off a boat.
Yeah.
But it's a reminder of another time
Hmm.
when we didn't have financial resources.
Yeah.
Another time we didn't have access to fabric stores. It went into my creativity, remembering how, and mostly sewing by hand. So sewing by hand was something that my mother made sure we all did. And she had a little cigar box for all of us. And in that cigar box was needles and even the, what do you call it, thimbles
Hmm.
and little scissors, a little odds and ends. And so in the summertime, when we were home from Holy Rosie Mission, and she would then around maybe so here when the sun starts to set, so the east side gets shady of the house. I must be 3 o'clock. She'd make us all sit down, take our little boxes, get our needle and thread, then she would have cut blocks out. So she give us a pile of blocks, so we sit there and sew the blocks together
Oh, nice.
for about maybe 2 hours, visiting and laughing and sitting there sewing,
Yeah.
and then pile those up. And later on, all those little blocks that we sewed became a quilt.
Mhm.
So today, what happened in that 3 o'clock from 3 to 5? Sitting around with my mom and my sisters, and my grandma would join us too, and visit and talk,
Mhm.
laughing, talking Lakota, and then sitting there sewing, like sewing.
Yeah.
There has there's a so I think about that, and there must be a lot of psychological analysis to sitting there sewing. I mean, that making the blocks is one thing. Another thing she would teach us how to do was make doll dresses, you know. And we didn't have dolls, you know. We didn't even we made our own dolls. That's the other reason why I think I started making dolls is that
Mhm.
we didn't have a lot of toys, and so we made our own dolls. But then now I'm talking about it from 3 to 5 to 2 hours of complete quiet, sitting there with needle and thread, sewing with your mom, and she's talking and telling stories, and grandma and just quietly just having just exchange, you know, and then we'll ask questions and we're visiting. So there's a psychological analysis of that moment, I think, was just so deep. What do you think?
Mhm.
Huh?
Yeah.
We don't do that anymore.
No.
Moms don't sit down with their baby girls and give them a needle and thread. So do I still sew by hand? Yes.
How old were you then,
We
would you
were,
say?
geez, we had to be little girls, and she gave us needle and thread from the early get, from the time we could hold a needle. 3, 4, 5, 6.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And she made us all sit down, and my little sisters too.
Yeah.
You didn't get to go play. You had to sit there and get your little box with your needle and thread, and taught us all how to thread it. And then,
Yeah.
then my little sisters made big stitches, and then she go back and make smaller stitches. But so now that we're talking about it, there's something about that quiet time with the needle and thread. So even today, I can't sit there and watch TV. I have to be doing something.
Yeah.
You too?
Oh, no, I watch TV while I do stuff.
Yeah, I can't just
Yeah,
sit
I'm
there
of the
and
generation where it just had to be on. The noise, yeah,
yeah. And so
it's
if I'm
terrible.
sitting there, even watching a football game or just watching TV, I have putting in helium shells on a cape. I'm sitting there putting that on or put that away. I
Mhm.
have to be doing something.
Yeah.
So maybe the psychology of hand. So I started thinking about making dolls. I started doing it in San Diego. It had to be 1985. I started to make dolls. I wanted to. And then I worked night shift at some places. I worked at full time at a hospital, and I worked night shift because as a single mother, I needed to earn extra money. And being a licensed nurse, I could always get a job. So I worked full time at one place, and then I was on call. So I did what they call uh, private nursing. That way I didn't have to go to. I used to be at somebody's house just to make sure that. But that's
Yeah.
when I really started doing it more. And then so 1986, so I started making them.
Mm.
And the body, I finally got the body, and I then fixed. I improved it since too, and got the body what I wanted, and then started making the little moccasins. Hey, the little moccasins, size 13.
Wow. Little beads.
Yeah, little ones, but I had better eyesight too,
Yeah.
so I was using size 13. And then the pattern, my mother had a pattern, so all my sisters used my mom's pattern.
Mm.
Just changed the colors on it. So that was my mom's pattern for moccasins and edging and stuff. So we all use my mom's pattern. We just
Mm.
changed the colors on that. Interesting, huh?
Yeah.
But anyway, so I started it. Anyway, so I did mine in 1986 at the Museum of Man. Some of the people enter the show. Just show your dolls. Okay, so 1986, I entered 3 dolls to an art show at the Museum of Man in San Diego, which is another big place that it collected. And I'd never done that before, and it's kind of like, ooh, I was apprehensive, and
Yeah.
I'm hearing that in that museum they had all these other arts that to me were like outstanding art, pottery, Hopi pottery, Navajo. I mean, to me, the Southwest art was also way beyond
Yeah.
my realm or thinking of an artist.
Yeah.
Anyway, so in here I entered it and I got lots of act clothes and I'm going, wow. So it was not Southwest art, it wasn't baskets or pots, it was another form of expression of showing a Lakota woman, and that's what I wanted to show,
Yeah.
Lakota women, yeah,
Yeah.
who we are.
About how many dolls do you think you've done?
She's, I think maybe over 50.
Oh, wow.
And there's some in private collections. And then over time, from that little doll, with the dentilium shell, and then I fine-tuned her, the dentilium shell top. So every time I made one, and then the next one would be better.
Yeah.
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 So you look at it and you go, I could do this different, a little
Yeah.
bit better. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, my favorite, the dolls that people still order are my cowboy dolls.
Oh, okay.
In that other image, and so what I really like. Remember the powwow, the
Yeah.
what is it, hat and rope.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I really like that.
Yeah.
So I made this doll, and she had a rope, and then she had a cowboy hat on,
Yeah.
and that fast somebody bought it, and then they're still ordering them. So
Yeah.
the cowboy hat on, and then that was really popular. And then she had on her dress, her cotton dress, and her belt and
Yeah.
everything. She had a fan in this hand and her rope in the other hand,
Yeah.
symbolically. What are you doing? I said, I'm a snag. I'm going to go around that dance arena and find out a good looking kind of rope him.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, so that's what we do. So my cowboy dogs, the cowgirl dolls are real popular. And then I have some in private collections, and that one you showed me was the first one that went to the Smithsonian.
Mm-hmm.
And then since then, there's two more went in Washington D.C. at
Yeah.
that collection. But the reason that my dolls, especially with the helium shell, okay, let's back up a little bit. And so Indian women wear buckskin dresses. And so when the trade cloth first came in, I said, "Oh, they were happy. Imagine having to wear a buckskin dress, picking choke cherries and digging timsila and curing the hide and wakablaing. That must have been hot."
Yeah.
And so imagine the happiness to take that buckskin dress off and put on a cotton dress.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really, that's an amazing transition.
Yeah.
And then, so of course, the plaid came first, and then later on the prints. And then, so they went transition, and then the trade cloth came next. If you look at the old pictures, the little white edging on her dress,
Mm-hmm.
and then so that's what they call the save cloth. And the first cotton that came were wool with the white edge.
Mm.
If you look at the old pictures, the
Yeah.
wool with the white edge.
Yeah.
So what happened is that the traders knew Indians liked it. So the Lakotas like blue, dark blue, and red were our favorite two colors. The Crows liked the green. So what happened is these were white blankets produced in Scotland.
Okay.
They were white, and they came to America,
And that's where they dyed them?
and then they dyed them in upstate New
Oh,
York.
okay.
Me and Emil Hermini horses did this research, so we
Yeah.
knew exactly where it went. So the white blankets came from Scotland to somewhere in upstate New York. And then that's when the traders like Indians like red and blue for us anyway. So what they did was they dyed them. So the white edging were the
Mm-hmm.
clamps.
Oh, okay.
So they clamped them and they dipped them, and then they pulled them out and they let them dry. So when the wool dried and they unclamped them, the white edging was there.
I see.
So that's what they call that.
Okay.
And so here's the artistic side.
Yeah.
So if you take a look at the old pictures,
We used
the
it.
women used that in the top, and then so the white edging was on the sleeve and on the bottom.
Yeah.
So they created the dresses and made the white. And they people have different names for it, saved cloth, whatever. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so I used that same model.
Yeah.
So what I did was Pendleton wool had white
Oh,
wool.
okay.
So what I did was I just improvised. So I bought 2 yards of Pendleton white wool, and then I just attached it to my little blue wool and had the saved edge,
Yeah.
just like in a picture.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but it wasn't enough to make that dress to look like the pictures. I needed to know how and why this fabric came to South
Yeah.
Dakota,
Yeah.
and it was a trade item.
I love it.
So
Purple.
my dolls were reflective of the history and how the fabric came
Yeah.
to South Dakota and how those Lakota women, how creative they took that and
Well,
you
and
know,
I mean, it just harkens back to we don't waste things, right?
no,
Where other people may have cut that off. It was just like, oh, that's part of it. Right. Like, I mean,
hmm
they could have just cut it off and had it all one color, but instead they decided this is part of this dress,
yeah.
right?
And then if you
So
take a look at the
beautiful.
Wichashas with their blankets, and
Mm-hmm.
they put the beadwork on it. If you take a look at them too, those blankets still have the salvage edge on there. Okay,
Oh,
the white edge. Or even I made a male doll one time dress, and then I put the edge around his leggings,
yeah.
right? So if you take a look at the old pictures, you'll also see the edging of the Wichashas
Yeah.
breech, the pant legs. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so my dolls weren't just dolls. I needed to know the history of why and how come that fabric came, the history, and so my dolls tell the story of the trade era as well.
Yeah.
And then of course, the cowrie shells came from, uh, I think Africa. And then so the dentilium shell, if you take a look at the old pictures as well, you see late 1800s, you'll see the dentilium shell. And so in doing the research, again, me and Emil Hermenihorst used to, work and how did that happen? Where did it come from?
Yeah.
I remember when 1987, 1988, I was home and I had a dentilium shell cape and I went to a powwow. He came right up to me. He said, "Hi, I'm Emil Hermenihorst." I said, "Hi, Emil." He said, "You look just like your doll." Because I had a dentilium
Yeah.
shell
Yeah.
top. Duale, no face. And after that, we worked together and helped each other and do
Yeah.
research and stuff. But that dentilium shell top was the first one in 87, 88, in 1989. That dentilium shell top I had on was the first one ever in a long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now they're everywhere.
Now they're everywhere.
They're
Yep.
everywhere.
And dentilium shells are so hard to find now.
They're
Yeah.
especially now.
Yeah.
But anyway, so back up a little bit on the dentilium shell. So then the other research, I started making dentilium shell top dolls because of the symbolism. But if you look at the history of dentilium shell, I wrote an article on dentilium shell, and it's like how did I describe it? The women in Northern California were the ones who were able to use that first because they took it out of the ocean,
Mm-hmm.
and then the Natillium shell was considered sacred, and they used it for money to
Yeah. It's like a
trade,
currency.
yeah, currency, and then they used it to put it on their capes.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you take a look at, so the California Native women's capes were rows like this. And then over here in Pine Ridge, the grandmas put them in rows as well, too. Interesting
Mm-hmm.
how there was a connection. And the word I wanted to use was, oh God, it'll come to me. The spiritual connection. So it's interesting how that dentilium shell was valued by the Williams of the Northwest. It came across this way to Idaho, then it came some parts of Montana, North Dakota. It stopped here in South Dakota. The dentilium shell did not go further to decorate dresses.
Oh, wow.
It stopped here.
Yeah.
It stopped here.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it didn't go to Nebraska. It didn't go to Iowa.
And that was that trade between tribes? Because obviously fabric is trade between settlers
Yeah.
and coming east to west,
Mhm.
but you have dentilium shells coming west to east from tribes. So there's like this,
Mhm.
I think, overarching, like we've always traded, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was highly desirable
Mm-hmm.
to collect these shells, to use them. So it never went further.
That's interesting.
It is.
Wow.
It's an art. Okay, the word is an archetype. And so I wrote an article on this on the archetype. An archetype is something that connects,
Mm,
and that's something for the dentilium shell that it connected cultures. It connected the Lakota culture with the Pacific Northwest women culture.
mm-hmm.
So that little shell, one little shell was alive at one time, so it had a spirit.
Mm-hmm.
So think of all the spirits that came with a handful of shells. So the Lakota woman, and my grandma's dress, I was thinking she must have held that shell and she could feel the women of the Northwest
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
connected. So the archetype, the dentilium shell connected the Lakota women to the women of the Northwest.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was a connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So it just made so much sense because even me, I get my shells, I just hold them for a little bit. I hold them for a little bit. You can feel the spirit.
Yeah.
It's not just the spirit of the shell, but the journey it made to get here. And the journey and when it was alive in the ocean. Yeah. And then when the women of the Northwest picked them and they held them, so their energy transferred to the shells and it traveled all the way over here. So if you take a look at the map, and this is another me and Amos project, it never went beyond Pine Ridge. Interesting.
That's very interesting.
It very is. It's so anyway. So what happened is the dentilium shell became a to use to decorate. So I love the old pictures. You know, the little girls had them on. The grandmas had them. The dentilium shell then became really sought after in Otejike. They always talk about how expensive those shells are today. And then the other one was replacing the elk tooth. The elk tooth was and having elk tooth dress, especially long ago, was considered another very important, what we call it, having somebody to shoot an elk and you only get two teeth, right, per elk. And so having a dress with all these elk teeth was quite an honor. Somebody killed an elk and gave you the teeth, and this is so the Crow women are the ones who have the most
Mm-hmm.
elk teeth dresses, and now you can buy elk teeth that are synthetic. You can buy different size looking elk teeth, and then so pretty soon, the elk teeth was replaced by the cowrie shell.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Okay, the cowrie
Yeah.
shell, yeah. And there's
Yep.
different kinds of cowrie shells, but the one
Yeah.
that's really sought after is the ring top cowrie
Mm.
shell, and it has that little ring on it. If you like this, and then so pretty soon that became a really big trade item. So if you take a look at some of the older dresses as well,
Yeah.
that the cowrie shell came,
Yeah.
yeah, and so that when again replaced the elk teeth,
Yeah.
and those cowrie shells came from Africa.
Oh wow.
When it came, some of them went this way. Came this way.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm getting ahead of myself. But so all my dresses reflect why and how come certain things were used to decorate the dresses. And of course, the fully beaded buckskin dress is highly sought after. It takes a lot of work to make a fully beaded buckskin dress.
Yeah.
Hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
When I think like I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, I don't know. They're like what do they call it? Like assessors or people who value something. I mean, they were putting the value of a fully beaded buckskin dress. And this again, this is over a decade ago at like $7,000, right? So, I mean, and by today, it's probably well over
Yes.
$10,000. Yeah, it's a lot. It takes a lot.
A lot, you know. So, anyway, so back to my dresses. So, my dolls. So, my dolls are not just dolls. There's history, everything about how we got the fabric, when it came, what was the symbolism of the fabric. And dark blue was our color of choice, and then second color was red. So those two are most common colors I use, and then sometimes I'll throw in a turquoise blue. You know, I like turquoise blue. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
and so I try to maintain the colors of my doll's dresses to the past, dark blue and red, and then everything is on there. I know why and how come it came here. So my dolls can tell the story of of how we got certain fabrics in the Great Plains,
yeah,
and so this is why a lot of collectors like my dolls because they can open it up and see the plaid dress. Okay, that came certain time, you know,
yeah,
and so you can tell the story of your people, and that's what my dolls represent: the story of the transition of materials and why and how come we used it, how we ended, how the shells got here, and most importantly, how the women went out of their way to make things, and that was the creative part, you know.
yeah.
And then I saw everything by hand. I never used a machine,
Oh, wow.
and that to me,
This conversation is so fascinating. Listening to Cecilia talk about her art, you realize her dolls aren't just objects, they're history you can hold in your hands.
She weaves that history into every detail, drawing from the lives, clothing, and experiences of Lakota women across generations, especially from her own family.
And I love how she shares that working on these dolls has been part of her own healing journey. It's beautiful how art becomes a way to carry history, memory, and healing all at once.
so right now I have dolls in different museums. Senator Daschle has one of my dolls. I gave him a doll just to remind him to look after us. Senator Thune's, the doll I gave Senator Thune is in his office.
Oh, nice.
When I gave John Thune this doll, I said, now this stays here to remind you of your responsibility to honor our treaties and our women. So it stays in his office.
I love it. I love it.
Senator Johnson's, uh, when I went to his memorials, Tim Johnson died about a month ago, and I worked for him in 2002. And his wife Barb wanted all of us to come together in Sioux Falls for the evening before the funeral, so we could all just, reconnect and visit. And she said, "I still have the doll
I
that you
love
gave
it.
him."
Oh,
And so I came home and I found a picture of when I gave him the doll. But Tim Johnson's doll's dress is maroon.
mm,
I had about a half a yard of maroon wool I picked up somewhere. So
yeah,
I hurried up and I made the dress out of maroon wool, but same with the white edging and stuff.
yeah.
That Tim style. Tim and Tom Daschle and John Thune, I gave all three of them a dollar just to remind them, this woman in your office are women in our region who need your help for health care, education, and your obligation to honor the treaty. So that's why I gave them the doll.
Yeah. And she's watching you. Just kidding.
She's watching you. But let me just back up a little bit. So the first doll show I did was at the Old Sioux Indian Museum. Remember the one at but the park?
Yeah.
Remember the
Yeah,
Old
yeah,
Sioux Indian
yeah.
Museum? Yeah.
Yep.
Remember
I
where
mean,
the
the building is still there,
Yeah, where
but
the
it's
road
not.
goes like this,
Yep.
St. Joe at Main Street.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember.
when it comes to that, it's the old, what's it called?
It's like a log cabin kind
Yeah,
of looking
what's the name
thing.
of that? They had a name for that. And so that was where the Othu Indian Museum was.
Mm-hmm. I
So
remember.
then I did my first show there. I still have all my pictures and my dolls. And I have to, this is really important. The first two ladies that walked in were my mother's girlhood friends.
Oh,
Sadie Janice, Sadie, young man afraid of his horses, Janice. And Zona, young man afraid of his horses. What was her married name? Fills the Pipe.
mm.
Pete Fills the Pipe's mom.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so Sadie and Zona, young man afraid of his horses. And Kyle, this is our land, and down a little on right over there is where Sadie, young man afraid of it. They're from Kiaksa, those two girls.
Yeah.
And they were my mom's girlhood friends.
Oh.
And so I looked up and they came walking in.
Yeah.
Imagine the emotion I felt.
Yeah. Yeah.
My mom's girlhood friend
Yeah.
came
Yeah.
to see what I did
Yeah.
and what I do. So talking to them and this, this why and how come and to look at the dress. I said, "You can't walk yet." She pulled up her dress. Hey, she's got on a plaid dress. So she knew the symbolism of the plaid dress.
Yeah.
Don't you when she knew it? Do you have any plaid dresses? She said, a long time ago, we all wore plaid dresses.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that, man, so they understood the pieces and the symbolism of the plaid dress, especially.
Yeah.
How it made me feel that. So I didn't care if I wanted anything. I just, my mom's two girlhood friends came in.
Yeah.
And they liked what I did. And my girl, Jennifer, that just meant the world to me.
Yeah. Well, I can imagine their conversation.
Yeah.
You know, we got to get up there for that girl. You know, no matter how old you were,
Yeah.
you were, their friend's daughter,
Yeah.
And they had to be there
They had to be there.
because we've done that, right, for other folks.
Yeah.
Right. We go to basketball games because that's our relative playing, or, we go because that's our high school friend's daughter who's playing, we do that for each other.
Yeah.
So I can imagine these two, ladies, we better get up there. And it was probably, all right, we know what time. And, they, don't be late. And, one of them's probably running late because that's just how it is.
That's
And
how it is.
yeah, and we got to get up there for that girl. Yeah.
And I thank you for reminding me. And that just meant so much to me.
Yeah.
I'm crying again, So anyway, that was my first show, and then since then I did shows here and there, and I did the Smithsonian a couple of times. And then my last big show I did, I had to beat Amo. Amo was always getting the blue ribbon, and I would get the red ribbon. So before the COVID, we had the big, remember the Northern Plains art
Oh,
show
yeah.
that first it stopped, So
Yeah.
anyway, so I entered a new Dentilium shell top doll. Sioux Falls, I entered it, and doggone it, if I got the blue ribbon and Abel got the red ribbon.
You're like, now I'm done.
I said, we're even now,
Yeah,
yeah. And so so thank you so much for letting me talk about this. I didn't realize how much it meant. Even now, I still work on dolls, I sit down in my little room and put pieces together. So it's creating creativity is healing.
Mm-hmm.
Making something is healing because it connects you, and it connects me. It connects me to my mom and my grandma,
Mm-hmm.
and it connects me to all the women that I came from, and it reminds me to be grateful that I know how to make things. And how to create something that somebody somewhere can, like somebody, whether we like it or not, some of these collectors, they know what to look for.
Yeah.
And like I said earlier, plaid dress.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
and so it's healing for me, and it's really been what I consider a part of my healing. So there's different things you do to bring yourself in balance and harmony. But mostly now I fully understand why I made women dolls, to honor the strength, the creativity, and the power of Lakota women.
Mm.
And that we are the foundation and the backbone of our nation. We are the ones who bring forth the next generation. We are the ones who raise them, guide them, and mold them into this human being that can go on and do other things. So the responsibility of the Lakota woman is just so deep.
For me, this next story about the Smithsonian is one of my favorites that Cecelia tells. I just love it.
I've heard her share it too, and it's really special. Listeners, you're in for a treat.
Can you close us? There's a story you tell about helping at the National Museum of the American Indian.
Oh, wow, that is just so amazing.
Yeah.
I
So the group, you were selected to go
select
out. Yeah. To go out and to help with some things. But there's a great story you tell, and I hope you'll tell that again here, just about like even bumping heads with the curator. We were
Oh,
like, no,
yeah.
we're gonna fix this up. Yeah. So if you could tell that story, then we'll close.
Okay, so the National Museum of the American Indian was built in Washington, D.C., and it was built just for the collection of Indian artifacts that have been all over. And it's just right down the street from the congressional offices.
Mm-hmm.
And even the building is different. The
Yep.
design, it was very feminine and soft.
Very
Compared,
fluid. Yeah.
yes,
It's
very
very. It's
fluid.
not like your typical square box that you see in Washington D.C. It's very,
Hmm.
very fluid. It's very colorful. I mean, not colorful, but it's like Adobe kind of color.
Yeah,
And
it's a
yeah,
warm.
it's like swirls. And when you
Yeah,
walk in, it's big and open. It's not cramped. And
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So the design itself was so crucial and important. So I was able to, I just dabbled in a little bit of this man I used to be was a collector, and so started learning about Indian art and blah blah blah, and the different styles of art all over the United States. Anyway, so I came home and so I started making dolls, and so Emil Hermeni horses. Some of you should really honor Emil, what he's done to really bring forth the Plains art to his forefront. Emil was a staff person at the new National Museum of American Indian, and they were designing from the tip of from the tip of Alaska to the tip of South America, 7 cultures that were really significant and impacted every America, the largest impact. And so the Lakota philosophy was picked as one of the 7 to be created on a display at the new museum. So Amo picked the 4 people he picked to help him design the philosophy and then pick artifacts to fit the philosophy were John Around him, Dennis Whiteshield, Dennis Robert Tucrow, and Mrs. What's her name from Wakamamani. Oh gosh, I'm bad for names. I'll remember. Anyway, Emily has no horses.
Oh, okay.
So Emily, who really put forward the Lakota woman philosophy, she said to him, I want to do it, but I don't like to ride in airplanes, so I have to ride in airplanes. She said, but the only person I could think of that could really do a good job because she knows a lot, and she picked me.
Mm.
Imagine my surprise.
Yeah, yeah,
'Cause you go through life thinking, well, and then somebody sees you and they know. So she recommended I take her place. What an honor.
yeah.
It really was. So anyway, so that meant that we had to go to Washington, D.C. And so for those of you who are listening, there are so many places in America where the collections, what a collection is where people brought things like pipe bags and, you know,
Yeah.
things,
Headdress, pipes, yeah,
stuff, yeah.
moccasins, yeah, all kinds
People's
of stuff.
dresses and
Mm-hmm.
things that were taken and they're in collections. And so the Smithsonian had a huge collection of things and that we got to. So what we did was we had to go to spend a week going through stuff to fit the philosophy, north, south, east, west in the exhibit to find things that fit that whatever age too. So anyway, so we were there and we had a great time. Just it was so powerful. And Lakota lechum te liuk chupi. Whenever somebody makes something that you're touching it and making it, your spirit goes into that object. Nakini tra ki taku ki he imahe lokake. And so we believe that. So we made sure Uncle John around him, hena wiyuk junkie hapi. So before we touched anything, we would azilia. smudge ourselves and smudge the object. And then we always wear gloves to not touch it with your bare hands,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So anyway, we picked the objects, and then the objects that we picked, some of them needed to be repaired. We had a cradle board that was completely made with sinew.
Wow.
That was before thread.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then and then we had those parfleche, I mean the big boxes. Um, and those were also put together by sinew,
Rawhide. Oh yeah.
rawhide, well, the rawhide. Anyway, and then other things. And so they asked me to come back. I said, you know what? Can I get some help? I know two women who know how to fix things. Sure. So Fidelia Cross and my niece Matilda. And so I said, we tried, hey, ska man kapes, men hecho yana, aku apil yang, they will, oh, they said, we'll go. So we flew into Washington, D.C. with all of our stuff. We had elk sinew, we had deer sinew, I thought we had all kinds of stuff, even the white chalk
Yeah.
to clean buckskin with. So we had
Yeah.
everything. And then so we came to this room where we're supposed to. And this is the part that's so funny because here we have all of our little odds and ends to fix stuff. The objects were there, and then we were surrounded by all these washichus
Yeah.
that were,
Yeah.
what did they call them? Archivists,
Curator,
curators, and
museum. I don't know.
whatever.
Yeah.
These are the ones, who
Yeah.
have their little pencils, everything you say.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, but yeah, so we picked our objects. So I was repairing a pipe bag, and this pipe bag was was stored, and that bottom part was folded over. So where it was folded over had deteriorated. So I had those 7 rows I had to replace
Yeah.
the quill work, and then I had to
Yeah.
replace it. Plus it was kind of funny looking, colored, because it had collected dust. Okay. Anyway, so we all took our objects and we started working on them with all these washichus looking over our shoulders. And that was, Matilda said, hey, daga wakish ni lila mine. I said, Dr. Kanigo, why talk to them as you're doing it. And she said, I said, Lakota, yeah, what yeah. She said, anyway. Well, she was going to explain to you in Lakota, but since you don't understand it, do you want her to talk in English? They go, yeah. Anyway, I was joking around with all these Washichu curators. So anyway, so this is the part that was so interesting because before I started, I was doing 2 things. I was wrapping the quills, and then I would then take my chalk and clean the top half of that pipe bag that had sat for so long it accumulated dust. And then they had all this stuff. So I was pushing that chalk, right? And then they had this vacuum thing. It was just like, wow, just
Yeah.
amazing stuff they had,
Yeah.
And then I was talking to it. Pretty soon this white guy came over. He said, we're having a conversation. I said, what are you talking about? He said, we don't think you should clean it so good.
They like the antique look.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we want it to look old. I said, well, yeah, probably, but the person who made it didn't want it to look nice. How do you know? I said, let me ask. The pipe bag maker. Let me ask the pipe bag maker. Who went, what? I said, in Lakota, how do you want it? Pipe bag maker said he wants it clean. And so they were like astounded. They thought I
Yeah.
was kidding. I
Yeah.
said, no, the spirit of this it's still here. So anyway, so they backed off a little bit. And then next day, again, another one came and thought I was cleaning it too much. So we called it big guns. Amo came down and Mr. Horse's capture, that older man, he was down there too. I told him what we were running into, this dilemma. They wanted me to not clean it so good. So they said, what? I said, well, he said, oh, okay, well, she said the spirit wanted it clean. And they went, So I had two Lakota men supporting my horse captures from North Dakota, I think.
Yeah.
AMO, so they supported it. So anyway, so I got everything done. So this is the part that got it all cleaned and it's under this bright light. And so I said, So in Lakota, I told the pipe bag maker, I said, well, I did my best to make it look really good again. I fixed all the broken, pieces here, even cleaned the fringe. The fringe were kind of dull. I even was cleaning the fringe, got everything cleaned up. It was so nice. And so I told the spirit of the pipe bag maker, I asked them, I hope you're happy. I try to make it look as good as you want it to. And doggone it if that light didn't blow up. The light over.
Yeah.
It just shattered. Everybody screamed and ran over. What happened? What happened? So Matilda was laughing. Her and Fidelia came over. She asked the spirit of this pipe bag maker if he was happy with how everything turned out. And he blew up the light bulb to say he was. He was happy. Blew up. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody laughed. And then those Washichu people were like, they didn't realize that when you make something, Jennifer,
Yeah.
you leave a part of yourself with you. And that was so amazing because all of those pieces invariably went into the display.
Yeah.
They went into the display. When people came, they could see all the pieces we found, and they're in the display to show the meaning, our pipe bag, the meaning of the design, and most importantly, everything in that collection was made out of natural material.
Yeah.
Buckskin and quills.
Porcupine
And
quill. Yeah.
everything in a generational, 4 directions, 4 ages, and the objects themselves told a story about who we are. And those are all from the collection. Somebody picked it up and put it in a collection.
Yeah.
So we have so much stuff in our collection. So thank you.
Uh-huh.
And so thank you so much. And sometimes, we all around us are things that you can do. But again, use your hands. Do something with your hands.
Yeah.
Start creating, and it's also healing. And that's the part I want to emphasize. You can take care of some of your boo-boos. Then you can celebrate the good things too, because your hands remind you.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Miglushta.
Moki gusta.
Uh-huh.
Wow. Hearing Cecelia talk about her dolls and the women who inspired each one, it's so moving. You can feel how much love and intention she puts into every detail.
Listening to Cecelia describe her creative process, you really feel how art became one of her methods of reflection and healing. Each doll, each stitch, each design was a way for her to pause, to remember, and to tend to the parts of herself that really needed care.
The way she weaves in history and that story from Washington, D.C., wow. When the light bulb blew up in the Smithsonian, boom, what an incredible moment of connection with our ancestors.
I know, that's one of my favorite stories she tells. Moments like that remind us how alive our art and history are and how closely connected we remain to those who created before us.
Wopila to Cecelia for sharing this part of her life, and Wopila to all of you for listening.
Join us for the next episode of Stories of Lakota Elders, where we continue learning from Cecilia's wisdom, her leadership, and the experiences that shape her.
Doksha Ake.
Until next time.
Tonka
Stories of Lakota Elders is an independent podcast recorded at Makpialuta Studios on the Makpialuta campus in Pine Ridge, South Dakota. This project is supported in part by the Better Way Foundation, with studio support from South Dakota Public Broadcasting, and editing, sound design, and production support from our friends at Podtex. You can listen to Stories of Lakota Elders wherever you get your podcasts.